One of the hardest things about being a founder for a lot of people is there is a massive people management and community management aspect to being a founder. These used to be your star players. These used to be the people who were the cornerstone of your culture, or they were always going above and beyond 110% star marks on all of their reviews. They want to be part of the team. They will be some of your most loyal employees if you can take the time to either provide the resources yourself or point them in the direction of resources they need to succeed. Hi, my name is Rae, founder of Hurricane Consulting, where we use concepts from personality science, mental health, and psychology to inform business decisions and leadership strategies. Today, I want to talk to you about a system called internal family systems, which basically outlines how there are exiles and protectors, and then the true self in every single one of us. And those roles can affect how we interact not only with peer to peer with our coworkers, but also from a leadership position, how we interact with our subordinates. Now, the first part I'm going to talk about are your exiles. Your exiles are often thought of as your inner child, things you're embarrassed or ashamed of, your traumas, that those inner workings of those very, very intimate parts of yourself, right? That causes our protectors to come in to guard those parts of ourselves, whether it's our hurt, vulnerable inner child that we're protecting with emotions like anger or fear, or if it's very shameful parts of ourselves that we're ignoring or disregarding because we are afraid of rejection from society or from our peers. Now, there's two different protectors. One of them is something called a manager, and one of them is a firefighter. Firefighters come in and they would rather burn the whole thing down than let you get close. People who are firefighter led are going to be a little bit more combative. They're going to be a little bit more defensive, right? But that combativeness and that defensiveness comes from a place of trying to protect these exiles. It comes from a place of a fear of being seen, or a fear of being rejected, or a fear of being thought of as less than. On the other side, from the kind of emotional combative firefighters, are the managers. Managers are this titration system towards the emotion, right? They're the control freaks. They're the perfectionists. I've got it all together. Don't look at me. I've got it going on. I don't need you. I'm fine. They have obsessive behaviors. They have controlling behaviors. It's easier to spot with people who are a little bit more firefighter led and anger led when they're getting close to burnout because they'll snap a little bit more. They'll be more defensive. They'll start kind of saying things to anger their coworkers. They might start having issues with authority, pushing back on certain things, whereas your managers are going to suffer in silence. So, how does all of this play into the workplace? One of the hardest things about being a founder for a lot of people is there is a massive people management and community management aspect to being a founder. And that's the part that a lot of people are ill prepared for when they begin this business journey is they come in and they've got a great idea and they're smart as hell and they're ready to hit the ground running on a business front, but eventually that business grows to a point where you are hiring people and you've been so focused on building the business that sometimes people management aspect falls short, and it's a difficult thing. Now, the concept of internal family systems kind of shows us how various people will deal with stress or adversity in the workplace. And the other system we're going to talk about is something called intention activation groups, which was a proprietary system designed completely in-house at Hurricane Consulting. And these are four groupings of people who need a little bit extra leadership attention. With intention activation groups, it's all about understanding the employee intention. Intention is something that transcends across all industries. It transcends into law, right? The mens rea. What was the mental state behind the crime? Was it a crime of passion? Did I think about it? Was it premeditated? The same could be said for business. Sometimes people have bad days, but sometimes people have really good intentions and they just need a little extra help in order to step into their full potential. One of my favorite quotes of all time is Augustine Burroughs, and it's I myself am made entirely of flaws stitched together with good intentions. And that is the bread and butter of what we're trying to accomplish here. Four groups for intention activation groups are no intention activation unlikely, intention absent, emotional disconnect, intention present, execution inconsistent, and intention present, mentorship required. Now, what do all of these things mean? Those first two groups that I mentioned, the no intention and intention absent, those are people who their positive intention isn't there for one reason or another. That second group, their intention is there, but they need a little bit of extra guidance or a little bit of extra help in order to reach their full potential. So let's talk about the first two groups. No intention, activation unlikely. They've been at your company less than 3 months. From the second they got on board, they haven't seemed like they're into what they're doing. They are falling behind. They show no interest in being part of the culture. You find yourself wondering how they even got hired. These are people who have no intention of adding to your company, and activation unlikely means there's probably nothing you can do as a leader, no amount of compassion, guidance, or help you can give them that will activate that intention. The second group I talked about is intention absent emotional disconnect. Intention absent emotional disconnect is complicated because these used to be your star players. These used to be the people who were the cornerstone of your culture, or they were always going above and beyond 110%, star marks on all of their reviews. They're a loyal employee. Maybe they've been with the company forever. And then it seems like out of nowhere one day, things just changed, things just flipped. And you find yourself wondering, what happened? This is usually something that occurs when we're talking about managers, right? And we're talking about internal family system. These are your managers where maybe there's been a problem all along, but they were holding it all together and they burned themselves out, and that emotional disconnect is coming in. It can also be if there's perceived disrespect from other teammates or from leadership where they'll emotionally shut down. They're afraid of that rejection. They're damaged emotionally by that disrespect, but they don't want to get combative. They don't want to get defensive. They don't want to stand up for themselves because they'd rather seem like they have it all together and everything's fine. And that will come out as an emotional disconnect from the company, from the culture, and from the work itself. So that's kind of more of a managerial role. The other two that I talked about are where intention is present, but a little bit more guidance is needed from leadership. So the first one I'll talk about is that intention present, execution inconsistent. These 9 times out of 10, I hate to generalize, but 9 times out of 10, these are my neurodivergent friends. And I say that as someone who is neurodivergent. I struggled with this a lot in the corporate workspace where when my brain is on, God, it's on, and I can do the work of 20 people in a week, you know? And days that my brain's not on, basic tasks are like pulling teeth. And as a leader or as a manager, that can be really frustrating when someone's like a star player one day and then the next day, they're all over the place. Now, a lot of times by the time someone's further along in their career, they've developed systems for themselves to help with this inconsistent execution. But what can happen sometimes, especially with certain neurodivergencies, is there is this anger, defensiveness, or shutdown that can come from feeling misunderstood. So what's important here is to ask a lot of questions when you're seeing that inconsistent execution. For example, if you have someone who has like a rejection sensitivity and you come to them and you say, "Hey, why isn't this done?" That's going to trigger that rejection sensitivity. It is coming from that inner child wound of, I've messed up. I'm not being perfect. I'm not being good enough, and someone's noticed. And that can come out as a firefighter, very defensive, or it can come out as a manager, shut down, or just, yep, everything's fine. I'll do it. And then they're in the background scrambling because their brain's not braining that day. What that conversation can sound like, instead of, "Hey, where is this? You missed the deadline on this," things like that, is, "Hey, I noticed that there's a lot going on and there might be some distractions. Is there something I can help you with?" Or, "Hey, I've noticed that it's really difficult for you on days that we have a lot of meetings. Maybe let's have a conversation about what meetings don't need to be required or mandatory for you so that you have those concentrated blocks of working time to really get locked in." It's all about working with their brain. And doing that starts with being curious and asking questions. The last group that I'll talk about is intention present, mentorship required. They want to be part of your company. They want to be part of the team. They will be some of your most loyal employees if you can take the time to either provide the resources yourself or point them in the direction of resources they need to succeed. these will often be people who use that kind of manager defense system and internal family systems where they'll act like it's all good and it's all going on because there's an embarrassment there. And it can be very overwhelming. And they don't often ask for help. So when you notice someone falling behind, once again, it's about being curious. Hey, I've noticed that we're struggling with some deadlines here. Hey, I've noticed that, it takes you X number of days to get me a first draft of something. Maybe let's talk about how we can be more confident in our work, or let's talk about what my expectations as a manager or leader are with this first draft, right? A lot of times it's just about ensuring people that perfection is not expected. It all circles back to asking the right questions, especially when you see this manager or this firefighter defense mechanism, because the last part of internal family systems, besides your exiles, your protectors, your managers and firefighters, is the self. And that is the core of who you are as a person and what you are capable of when you shed those protectors and you release those exiles and you step into your center and your confidence. The TLDR, be curious, be compassionate, be kind, learn how to ask the right questions. And if you don't know where to start, you start by calling me or emailing me. Please don't call me randomly. Uh, anyways, I've been Rae. This is Misfit Founders, and thanks for watching.